Hey y'all, it's your host, Avery Carl. Welcome to the Short Term Show special episode series on Scottsdale, Arizona. So in these 10 episodes, we're going to take a deep dive into the Scottsdale market, but I want to note a couple of things for you guys first. So if you are looking for current income numbers and current purchase prices, or you want to set up a search of Scottsdale properties, you can do that at our website, theshorttermshop.com. You can also connect with us there to get connected with our Scottsdale agents or any of our other markets, any agents in the other markets that we work in. So hope you guys enjoy our Scottsdale mini-series, and we'll catch you guys later. Be sure to join our Facebook group. It's called Short Term Rental, Long Term Wealth, same title as my book, and we'd love to connect with you there as well. Thanks, guys. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Short Term Show special episode series on the Scottsdale market. So today we're going to talk about what to buy. So we're going to talk about locations. We're going to talk about sizes, all of that fun stuff that will give you the information that you need to make a decision on what it is you want to buy and where and what size. So we have Leslie and Jessica from the last episode that you guys are already familiar with. And we also have Treb Ryan. Treb, do you want to introduce yourself briefly to our audience?
Yeah, my name is Treb Ryan. I'm an investor in short-term rentals. I started in Tahoe and have decided to expand down to Scottsdale just this year. And I just bought my first property down in Scottsdale.
Awesome. All right. So thank you all for being here. Let's talk about, I'm just going to dive right in. Let's talk about the different areas of the Scottsdale market. So what are y'all's favorite areas for people to invest? Are there any areas you want to avoid? Let's start with the good ones. Let's start with the fun, the happy stuff, and then we'll talk about stuff we want to avoid.
Well, I think that it's based off personal preference and who you're trying to market. So I see Scottsdale as North Scottsdale and South Scottsdale. South Scottsdale is kind of in the mix of culture, arts, nightlife. You know, there's lots of resorts that you can go visit during the daytime, pool parties during the summer, you know, tons of restaurants, shopping. It's where our, you know, the largest mall in Arizona is, Fashion Square. So, you know, South Scottsdale is kind of known for party side of Scottsdale, bachelor, bachelorette type themes. A lot of Airbnbs like to incorporate those in that side of town. And then North Scottsdale is kind of a little bit more larger properties, a little bit more family friendly, still have shopping, still have restaurants. Barrett Jackson car show is held in that area.
I didn't know that. Luke is like obsessed with watching that. I think our whole entire like dating was me coming home from work and him watching that. So
it's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. My dad got tickets and he's into cars, but he didn't want to go that day. And he just kind of let them. I'm like, what are you doing? People love, like, you could given them out, sold them something. Like, don't just let them die. So yeah, that's it. That's held in North Scottsdale. But I feel like north, south, it really doesn't matter. You're in close proximity, driving distance from one end to the other. So I don't think that to be an issue. And really, as long as you're 15 minutes, 20 maybe max from, you know, an event, you're A-okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's not too hard to get around town.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree. The Phoenix International Airport is where a lot of people fly in. And that's just 15 minutes from the downtown area, from Old Town area, Scottsdale. So that would be South Scottsdale. And then I think it's maybe 30, 45 minutes north where the car show is held at the biggest and busiest event center in North Scottsdale. And then that's just 5-minute drive from the TPC golf course where the Phoenix Waste Management Open is held. And then the Mayo Clinic is right up there too. So as far as like the properties go, I think it just depends on like what you're going for. There's more options, I'd say, in the 85251 and 85257 zip code in South Scottsdale. More condos, it's a little dense. I think you have a little more flexibility and affordability there in those areas. But as you go north, I think they're a little bit higher in price typically, but it's a really, really nice area too. So
Yeah. You know, I think you have to really think about who you're trying to rent to, and you know, who your target market is. I know for me, I kind of narrowed it down to snowbirds, spring training fans, and bachelor parties for sure is the big three. And, with each of those, being near the Giant Stadium, it was important, as well as being around all the shops and restaurants. But there tend to be smaller groups, right? You're not bringing families to these environments. So it's people, who either empty nesters or the snowbirders or young people and so the South Scottsdale area had that advantage of being, really centrally located. If you're talking about a family, we're going to be in the car anyway. There's a lot, as you said, nicer properties up on the northern side of town that might be more attractive to somebody who's trying to just get some sun time away from the cold and less concerned about being right next door to everything.
I have a question. So I know obviously you want to be as close as possible to attractions. So, actually I have a question before my next question. After I ask this one, don't let me forget that I had another piggyback on it. So, and I already lost the first one. Oh, yes. So is this an area where all of the attractions are kind of in one central location, or are they all kind of dispersed in different areas of the city? Or is everything like kind of right downtown in that old town area? And I might be using the wrong lingo here.
It's spread out. Yeah, I'd say.
Okay.
It's not always in just one area. Sometimes they're in close proximity, but the spring training is kind of like centrally located to North and South Scottsdale. It's kind of like right smack dab in the middle. And then you'll have TPC, which is a little bit more farther north. And then, South Scottsdale has like all of the art exhibits and, small boutique type shops and restaurants and things like that. So I'd say it's all spread out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question. Oh, go ahead, Trev.
Yeah. The group I didn't target, but it would be a big one, of course, is the golfers too, right? And the resorts are definitely spread out around town in different spots. And so for if you're looking at bringing in, say 4 to 8 guys who are or people who are doing a golf trip and going to different resorts and want to have a better way of doing that. It's not nearly so dependent. As a matter of fact, you might be wanting to be a little farther north and central to some where the resorts are in the rest of the area as well. So that's very spread out.
Then you can
I've noticed. Oh, go ahead.
I said then you can buy another one.
Yeah. Hit that last demographic. So I've noticed, I've only been to Scottsdale a handful of times, but I have noticed there are a lot of resorts in Scottsdale. And are those typically more like hotels or places that you can buy little condos or houses to rent out?
They do have, I've come across just kind of within sending listings, some, I guess like condo type style properties that are available within the resorts. I feel like that might be like a timeshare type situation. We've never really looked into it because they do have the HOAs that are a little bit more strict when it comes to renting out. And so it's never really worked out to where we've looked into it. I've seen it. I just don't know admittedly much about that.
Yeah. I didn't see it. I didn't see any much properties in my search. That might be because of the premium. And so it just didn't come within my search range. And you have to ask yourself, even if you could rent it, is it the premium that someone who might want to live there is willing to pay to be near the golf course? Are you going to be able to get that back in your rentals, right? To be honest with you, none of them showed up in any of the searches that I looked at. And I don't know again if that's just because they're not available to rent or because it was just too expensive.
So, and to me, there's two different types of resorts. There's resort style communities, and then there's the actual resorts where it's like, the hotel, the spa, the pools, the something you can go to just for like buy a day pass and go to the resort just for the day and kind of spoil yourself. But a lot of those have the hotels, and then there's the resort style communities, which they do have. Typically, they're gated and have a lot of amenities and golf course and things, but those golf courses, sometimes you have to buy a separate membership for that. And then they tend to be pretty strict as far as who can use the amenities and things like that.
Yeah, you really need to investigate that. I know on one of my Tahoe properties, the HOA decided to stop letting renters, do that, even if they just changed the bylaws. And so if you're highlighting, hey, you can go and use all these things within this community, you have to make sure that will be available to renters over time as well.
Well, one thing that I've noticed about golf resorts a lot of times is since they are really luxury, they try to keep everything in-house. So many times they will require you to use their in-house management anyway, which to me is like a major non-starter, because even if you do want to use a manager, if you're someone who wants to own something and just doesn't want to manage it, that's fine. But what I don't like is when it's deed bound to one manager. So you can't even leverage hiring someone else. There's really no incentive for that manager to do a good job. So I know a lot of the luxury golf communities are like that across the country, but I definitely wanted to touch on this because there's a lot of golf there. So my second question that you guys were supposed to remind me about. So I know you want to be in close proximity to attractions. For me, if I'm going to buy something in the Southwest, like in the Arizona, Scottsdale area, I really love all the desert scenery with the cacti and the red dirt in the mountains and things. So can you get that, or do you have to go like way outside of town to have that kind of pretty desert scenery?
Yeah, you get it. That's one of the great things about Scottsdale. I mean, you can be right in the middle of town and it still feels like obviously if you want to have more property where you can spread out on the property itself, but the Camelback Mountains right there and the cacti are everywhere. It's not, every piece of land and lot is going to be that. It's just going to have that feel throughout, and especially it done some especially nice jobs in Scottsdale with some of the landscaping and the like. But you're not, you just the whole city's surrounded by the desert, and it's beautiful. Matter of fact, I believe is the Botanical Gardens is only 3 miles, is halfway between the airport and there, where they have an entire just gorgeous gardens, desert style gardens. You can visit within 5 minutes of downtown Scottsdale as well.
Yeah, the Papago Mountains are in extreme close proximity to South Scottsdale.
Okay.
Yeah, if you wanted to get more like magical landscaping and get a bigger lot and get like maybe even closer to the trails, if you were going to be there more for the outdoors, you could go further north and go closer to the McDowell mountain range and go there. But like you said, there's lots of desert landscaping around. And then there's a green belt going all the way through town. That's really pretty. So you're going to get it about mostly anywhere.
All right, cool. Because obviously you want to buy for numbers first, but I would hate to miss that scenery when I'm buying something. To neighborhoods, are there any, I know that there's not any like specific areas that are more concentrated, or maybe there are. The good areas for short-term rentals are just kind of interspersed throughout the area. Are there any short-term rental specific neighborhoods we need to be aware of, or is it just kind of a house by house basis?
House by house basis.
Okay.
All of Scottsdale is sprinkled. There's really, really nice areas, and then there's ones that are just mediocre, but they perform well. So, people invest in those areas and upgrade the properties if they're not already done, and they do quite well. So I'd say it's like a huge sprinkle within the city of Scottsdale as to where you can buy and how well you can do, or how well the property can perform.
I wish I had a map like January was for her market, but Scottsdale is so dense, and there's so many neighborhoods. I think it's more of a case by case once you start looking at kind of where your budget and where you want to be. But Trev, what did you see when you were looking for yours?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I didn't, Scottsdale, I really didn't see much more than just being North Scottsdale and South Scottsdale. And anywhere where you've been on, I spent a lot of time just moving around. It would be a good place to be. There isn't like this part of town is, an hour away from getting to anything you want to get to. It's really kind of everything is just kind of spread in it's not that big a city where you can't get from wherever you rent, you can't get to where you want to go. It's just every neighborhood seemed like a pretty appropriate one. I don't think is there a bad neighborhood in Scottsdale? I know there's nice neighborhoods and there's ones that are really nice, but I don't know if there's it really, that's kind of outsourced to some of the other cities around Scottsdale.
Yeah, I wouldn't say bad, but yeah, there are some maybe more appealing to the eyes over others.
Yeah.
I'd say you're more likely to get no HOA or non-HOA properties in South Scottsdale and even south of like the downtown area. I'm seeing more, I'd say, affordable non-HOA homes, and they're going to be older homes. obviously 70s, 80s block homes maybe. But I'd say if you're going for a non-HOA home, if you don't want to be governed by an HOA at all, then you're probably going to be in the southern still.
And that's not going to be surprising. You see that with a lot of STR properties. Hey, I'm going to go into a home. I'm going to fix it up again with an HOA. There's a good chance that really wouldn't be available to the renters anyway. In those cases, and so it's much easier to go into that type of neighborhood. And the good part, again, often with some of the older neighborhoods, is they tend to be more centrally located, right? For getting to the Old Town or downtown or the stadium, because they were built earlier, right? And like anything else, they're a little closer to the center. I do see a lot of those within about 2 miles of where my place, the place I am, and that place was right next to Coors, built in the 50s. So you just kind of see it, 50s and 60s and 70s. You kind of move out, and a lot of the really brand new communities are going to be quite a bit of a driver, not even in Scottsdale at all. If you want to go to Paradise Valley, I think you can make those numbers work. That's got to be $250 a night, and you put that together.
I think I saw the daily rental rate when Paradise Valley was like almost $900. I think. I don't know. I mean,
that wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah.
And for those who are unfamiliar, so is Paradise Valley like the fancy part of town?
Yes. So
yeah.
People out of state sometimes don't differentiate Paradise Valley from Scottsdale, but Paradise Valley is its own city, its own thing, but it is what the kids call bougie. It's really nice properties, but it is expensive over there.
It's your Bel Air or Hillsborough or whatever. It's the big part town where my old boss lives. He did better than me.
All right. So are there any areas of town that are more affordable for investors? So Paradise Valley is not affordable, but are there any areas that are more affordable?
I mean, we have a large Phoenix market that I would say, that one will take some research as far as numbers and whether it's a good side of town or not. But Phoenix is affordable. In some cases, Tempe, where ASU is, can be affordable. It can also be up there in price. It just kind of depends on the location. And, I'm a fan of Fountain Hills. It's close to Scottsdale. It's not far from everything Scottsdale has to offer, but it gives that more desert feel, more picturesque scenery. And, some of the properties are much like a Scottsdale or a Paradise Valley property up in that area as well. So it's a little bit sprinkled with high-end, super luxury mountain backdrop properties and, nice family style with some scenery around you as well. That's a little bit more affordable. So, Arizona is a super diverse state. And I feel like there's so many different cities that, can perform well. It's just really doing your research and figuring out what fits you and what demographic or what type of person you're looking to rent to.
Okay. Now let's talk about size, because we spent quite a bit of time on location. So is this an area where you have to go really big, or can you get a small, 1-2 bedroom house or condo and still do well?
I mean, personally, I think if you're doing a condo in the areas that Trev was looking into and purchased into, I mean, you're not going to go wrong with that. If you're in a condo that's completely away from all of where you want to be in the mix, then that's probably not going to do as well. But also, who are you trying to rent out to? Maybe hospitals. So maybe you want to be by the Mayo Clinic or something. It really just depends on what direction you want to go. And then, I tend to kind of help my clients figure out, what area would best suit their needs in terms of, who they're marketing to. But I don't think condos will perform any less than a single family if it's in a good area.
Yeah. You have to, again, I think you have to think about who your target audience is. And if you're going out there to, provide, again, for the bachelorette parties, for people who are in town to socialize, who want to be able to walk to things and not get in their cars, to take the famous Scottsdale golf carts around. If you don't know, Scottsdale has these big carts golf carts that just have, usually 8 people who've enjoyed the evening, shall we say, or 10 hanging off of them, riding around town, and having that. Yeah, but there's even a name for it. And so, if you want to be within that kind of facility, then obviously a condo, if you're taking a condo and putting it, 25-minute drive, you're not really, I think of this type of things, this type of Airbnb is being almost an alternative to a hotel, right? Who wants to go to a hotel is 25 minutes away from everything. And so in that case, you're good. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing condos if you're trying to get out. You get kind of the worst of both sides, where you're not close to anything, but you don't have enough size to really be able to sit back and relax and enjoy the property you would with a larger piece of property.
Okay. Makes sense. So, but really what I'm hearing here is that there's a size for everyone. You don't have to go huge. As long as the location is good, then you're in good shape. And we'll hear more about exactly what sizes are most, I was going to say cost efficient, but that's not what I was looking for. Have the highest returns on not the next episode, maybe the next episode. What episode is it? Episode 3, I believe. Yes. So we're going to get into that in a later episode, listeners. So I do have a few more questions. Let's talk about amenities. So let's talk about having a private pool or a community pool. How is it? I'm of the belief that in any market, a private pool adds 20 to 50,000 in income, depending on the market, depending on a few factors. So I'm of the belief if you can get a pool, get one. But how hard is it to get one in this market with a property that just already has one?
There are pools everywhere, and they're not like, I'm from a different part of the country, and I always notice when I travel and I fly over cities, when you get low when you're about to land, like almost landing in Arizona, it's like, oh my gosh, there's pools everywhere. I get the aerial view, but a lot of times here in Arizona, they're smaller pools, they're play pools. So yeah, I mean, they're extremely common because people want to have a place to cool off in the summer. We talked about this in another episode, but I think it's a huge advantage to have a pool that's heated, because your busiest season is during the winter, and the kids flip over backwards to be able to get in the pool, like, in the winter time. So if they could do it and not freeze to death, that makes people happy. But then on the HOA properties, if your guests have access to a pool in a community like where a condo is, then a lot of times those are heated. So yeah, the pools are everywhere. I would think that it's would be fairly easy to find a place with a pool if you were going for that.
Yeah. I never even knew there was an unheated pool until I started looking at the Scottsdale market. I didn't realize what it's like when it's 110 degrees outside. People might not need to heat their pool, but they, more than even the desert view. I don't think you can do a place. You have to very specifically be there for 1 or 2 target things not to want to have a pool at the property. I mean, it's what Scottsdale is, right? It is pools and lying out and getting warm and then cooling off. And so I find that you definitely want to find one. But as we did mention, make sure it's heated, and it's not that hard to figure out. Most of the popular listings will let you know whether they have a heated pool or not, because it's a big ask.
Right. Well, and you also, I wouldn't write off a property where the pool isn't heated, because you can just get a pool heater. I bought a property that did not have a pool heater, and it cost me, I think, right about $3,000-ish to get it. But just keep in mind, I don't know how it is in Scottsdale, but where I am, I did have to get a building permit to do that. I had to get a permit from the city. So y'all make sure that if you do buy a property that doesn't have a pool, or, a property that you're going to finish out the garage or add a bedroom or something, that you make sure you're getting all required permits if there are any. So keep that in mind for sure. Let's hear about regulations. So is there anywhere in town that does not allow short-term rentals outside of just, certain HOAs that might not?
No, it's really just the HOAs that are the most restricting within Scottsdale.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I came out of the market was, especially out here in the West, it's one of the most liberal cities when it comes to working with short-term rentals. I think we would be remiss not to let people know there has been some debate between the city and the state on that. But fortunately, this is a fairly economically minded state, and to this point has kept it, a very, very friendly to the property owners in this case. So, which is really one of the things that makes Scottsdale so attractive, in that you can come into Scottsdale with the idea of doing some investment property and do it legally. As much as you may not disagree, I'm never comfortable with breaking the rules of a particular city or something in order to put those in place. But and so Scottsdale is not that. It's not that case. It's very open and accommodating. Yeah,
I love that. I love to hear that. And I agree. I see people all the time try to talk about cute ways of bending the rules when it comes to regulations in a market. And that when you're spending the amount of money that it requires to buy a piece of real estate, I don't like that. Bending the rules of like, okay, is my kid 12 and under to get free dinner at the restaurant? Okay. But like bending the rules of a regulation of, a $500,000 investment, I don't think that is a smart thing to do. So just keep that in mind, guys, as you're out there roaming the internet and there are people telling you what to do and what they've done. Bending the rules in real estate is not something that I recommend doing in any capacity, whether it's regulations or whether it's mortgages. I don't like the gray areas. They turn into red areas very quickly. And I don't want you guys as our listeners to be people that end up in those red areas. We're trying to keep you from that. What else? So I think I wanted to touch on really quick what's kind of cool about this market versus some of the other markets that we're in that are very like only tourism dependent is that I would call this a vacation-ish market. So it's very vacation driven, but also it has a lot of other industries. So not everyone who lives in this area has income that's dependent on tourism. So what I like is I think a lot of people, when they go to buy short-term rentals, they think, oh, I want to have a couple exit strategies. I want to be able to convert this to a medium term if it doesn't work, or I want to be able to convert this to a long term if it doesn't work. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is a market where you can convert it to another type of asset class if for some reason you decide, oh, this isn't for me. Is that the case?
100%.
And there's even some hybrids. There are, matter of fact, I decided to retain for us. I'm doing a 3-month rental in the winter, so a long-term snowbird rental. Who takes it out, which is prime season, but on the other hand, just as I was getting my feet wet, it was nice to be able to just take it and get 3 months of guaranteed income on it as I was getting up to speed on marketing the property and putting the things together. And so there are a lot of people who do those snowbird rentals and who can, so you can do medium term for portion of the year and short term for the other parts of the year, and get a little bit of both. So you have that opportunity out there, and Scottsdale really is, in the whole Scottsdale, Phoenix. It's a real city, right? Where people have actual jobs and big universities. Obviously, we talked about the big medical, actually a fairly good tech sector, which is how I've gotten to know, because I know a lot of people who went down there to do tech companies. So there's opportunities for the property outside of just people just dropping in. It's not Tahoe, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's a real strength of this market is its versatility, because it's not like, oh, I'm going to go buy an $800,000 beach house because that's it. Like you might get probably not on that size. Let's say 800,000, like in the Texas coast, gets you 4 or 5 bedrooms. You're not going to get a snowbird there. You're not going to get a medium-term rental, or you're not going to get a long-term rental. So I like the versatility of this market, because you can do other things where there are more vacation-dependent markets that are not versatile at all. It's vacations and that's it.
Oh yeah. I mean, like the list is long, and events all year round. I mean, obviously they have some concentrated in the best weather months, January, February, March. But a lot of businesses that are based in Arizona have their headquarters in Scottsdale. And then there's all the conferences that come here because, 325 sunny days a year, it's a pretty dependable place to come to meet. And it's pretty easy for people to meet the national, international, because of the airport and travel. And then there's so many people here and tech companies moving to the area that you get people coming here to visit family, and like they say about the hospital system, travel nurses, and also people who are here for treatment, or they have family here for treatment. So there's lots of other reasons why people come here, just besides the weather and the cactus.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I wanted to end on that because I think that's a really big strength of this market. Is there anything that we haven't touched on in terms of what to buy, where to buy, that you think our listeners could benefit from hearing that we haven't talked about?
I mean, I say that our market is pretty, it's versatile. So, I've come across a lot of clients that are like, I don't know if I can afford Scottsdale. Absolutely, you can. Let's try and find a place that is within your budget that still meets your needs or to the people that you're marketing. So I don't want it to be perceived as, you have to have a higher end budget to be able to even invest here and be successful. That's not the case at all. I've heard it plenty of times. So I would like to clarify that. And there's just so many different areas that I feel like a lot of people don't realize. And our state is beautiful. And that's probably like the biggest takeaway for me. And I take that for granted because I've lived here all my life and I'll see something and I'll just walk past it. But like, it's really, really gorgeous here. The landscape is just amazing.
And let's not forget it's 72 to get today in Scottsdale. I'm in Northern California and it's not 72 here. And this is California. So yeah, there is a reason why people like to enjoy coming. It's beautiful, but it's nice. Very nice.
Yeah. I've only been a handful of times, like I said, but it is very nice. And guys, if you guys are ready to buy with Leslie and Jessica, then you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we'll get you connected with them. Or if you just want to hang out and learn more, there's a few places you can do that. You can join our Facebook group. It's called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same title as my book right behind me. And we also have a live Q&A every Thursday where you can join and ask us any questions that you have about short-term rentals. And you can do that at strquestions.com. Guys, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this with us, and we will catch you on a later episode.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.